Shalom, friends, and welcome to Walking the Ancient Path, where we journey back into the language, landscape, and life rhythms of the Scriptures in a lighter, more accessible way, exploring the world of the Bible as its original listeners would have experienced it.
Today we'll pick up our in-depth exploration of the entire book of Galatians, formatted like a living Hebrew commentary.
Let's pick up where we left off, continuing in Galatians chapter 3.
Verse 14, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Jesus Christ, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith.
This happened so that the blessing promised to Abraham might flow out to the nations through Yeshua the anointed king, so that we might receive the promised gift of the Ruach through trust.
The blessing of Abraham. In Genesis, Yahweh promised that all nations would be blessed through Abraham's seed. In Hebrew imagery, streams of life flow outward from Abraham's tent to every clan beneath the heavens, might come on the Gentiles. Paul stresses that this promise was never meant to stay locked within Israel alone, but to spill over into all peoples. Through Yeshua the anointed king, the seed of Abraham is Yeshua himself. He is the living heir through whom the inheritance is distributed, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit. The Ruach, Yahweh's own breath, is the seal of the covenant promise. In imagery, the wind of heaven fills the tents, confirming that the blessing has truly come. Through faith, not earned by works of Torah, but received by open hands of trust. Just as Abraham believed Yahweh's word beneath the stars.
Verse 15, brothers, I speak after the manner of men. Though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it is confirmed, no one sets it aside or adds to it.
Brothers, let me speak in human terms. Even with a man's covenant, once it is ratified and sealed, no one sets it aside or adds new terms to it.
Brothers, Paul shifts into clan language again, speaking to the family gathered around the fire. I speak after the manner of men. He draws on a human analogy, something familiar from everyday life. A man's covenant. In Hebrew imagery, a beret is a binding agreement, often sealed with blood that cannot be broken once sworn. Even in human dealings, land sales, family inheritances, covenants have a binding force. If it be confirmed, to confirm a covenant is to ratify it, often with witnesses or a seal. In imagery, it is like hammering a stake into the ground, fixed and immovable. No one sets it aside or adds new terms to it. Once a covenant is established, no one has the authority to erase its terms or add anything to it. Paul argues, if this is true of human agreements, how much more of Yahweh's covenant with Abraham?
Verse 16, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He said not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ.
The promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed. It does not say to seeds, as though to many, but to one, to your seed. And that seed is the anointed king.
To Abraham and his seed, in Hebrew, zerah, seed, has an agricultural meaning, one kernel representing life for many generations. Yahweh's promise to Abraham was linked not to many heirs by flesh, but to one seed through whom blessing would flow. He said not, seeds as of many. Paul makes a wordplay on the singular. Hebrew zerah can mean a collective seed, but Paul focuses on its singular form, pointing to one ultimate heir. But as of one, to thy seed, echoing Genesis 22:18. The imagery shows a single seed planted in the soil, meant to grow into a tree that will provide shade for all nations, which is Christ, the anointed king. Paul identifies this promised seed as Yeshua. He is the single seed from Abraham's pouch, planted into death, springing up into life, bearing fruit for all peoples.
Verse 17, and this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect.
Here is what I mean. The covenant confirmed beforehand by Yahweh in the anointed cannot be undone by the Torah, which came 430 years later, so as to cancel the promise.
The covenant, confirmed before, the Berit with Abraham was sealed by Yahweh himself, Genesis 15. In Hebrew imagery, the smoking firepot and blazing torch passing between the pieces made it unbreakable, sworn by the Eternal. In the Anointed, the covenant always pointed to the Messiah as the promised seed. Paul sees Yeshua as embedded in the promise from the beginning. The law, 430 years after. Torah at Sinai came centuries later following Abraham's promise. In imagery, the covenant tent was already pitched. Torah was a structure built within it, not a replacement for it. Cannot disannul. No later addition can break or void the original oath. In Hebrew imagery, once a covenant cord is tied by Yahweh's own hand, no man can cut it loose. That it should make the promise of none effect. The promise is the river flowing from Abraham's tent. Torah's arrival did not dam up that river. It only channeled its flow until Messiah came.
Verse 18. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise, but God gave it to Abraham by promise.
For if the inheritance rests on Torah, then it no longer rests on promise. But Elohim granted it to Abraham through a promise.
The inheritance, in Hebrew imagery, Nachala, refers to the allotted share of land, life, and blessing given from father to son. Paul describes the covenant blessing as Abraham's family inheritance. Be of the law. If inheritance relied on Torah keeping, only those who flawlessly followed every command would qualify. In imagery, only the strongest sons could claim the land. It is no more of promise. Promise, davar, a word sworn by Elohim, means that Yahweh himself bound the inheritance by his oath, not by human effort. If Torah became the basis, the Father's promise would lose its significance. But God gave it to Abraham by promise. Genesis 15. Yahweh swore the covenant himself while Abraham slept. In imagery, the Father handed Abraham the deed to the land with his own signature of fire.
Verse 19. Wherefore then serves the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator.
Why then was the Torah given? It was added because of transgressions, set in place until the seed would come, the one to whom the promise was spoken, and it was arranged through messengers by the hand of a mediator.
Why then the law? Paul anticipates the obvious question. If inheritance is through promise, what purpose did Torah serve? Using Hebrew imagery, if the tent was already set up, why add more ropes? It was added because of transgressions. Torah was given to reveal chata, sin, to protect the community, and to make crooked paths visible. In imagery, a fence around the camp to prevent wandering children from falling into ravines. Till the seed should come. Torah was temporary, guiding until Messiah arrived. The seed, Yeshua, is the true heir, fulfilling the promise to Abraham. Ordained by angels, messengers, Jewish tradition held that Torah was delivered through angels at Sinai. In Hebrew imagery, heavenly messengers stood as heralds at the covenant ceremony. In the hands of a mediator, Moses acted as the go-between at Sinai. Visually, he held the covenant tablet in his hands, conveying Yahweh's words to the people.
We'll pause here and continue in our next episode.
If you listeners have areas of interest you'd like to explore further, questions or comments, please don't hesitate to let us know.